The drama of July sweeps is ready to erupt across Genoa City, and if these predictions come true, the weeks between June 25th and July 20th will become some of the most emotional and explosive of the entire year. Relationships hanging by a thread could suddenly find hope, while dangerous secrets threaten to destroy lives that have already been pushed to the breaking point. Long-hidden betrayals may finally come into the light. Loyalties will be tested in ways no one expects, and several familiar faces could find themselves standing at crossroads that will forever change their futures. From Victor and Nikki's heartbreaking reunion story to Patty's desperate final gamble, from shocking revelations surrounding Dr. Lawrence Markham to Lily and Kane's passionate reconnection, every storyline appears destined to collide in spectacular fashion. As the tension steadily builds and every passing day raises the stakes even higher, the residents of Genoa City may soon discover that survival depends not only on strength, but also on trust, forgiveness, and the willingness to fight for the people they love. One of the biggest emotional storylines appears to center on Victor Newman and Nikki Newman, whose fractured marriage may finally begin its long-awaited journey toward healing. As Nikki's frightening medical crisis grows more severe, Victor refuses to stand by and watch the woman he loves continue to suffer. With no surgeon in Genoa City capable of performing the delicate operation she desperately needs, Victor throws every resource at his disposal into finding the best specialist available. Working alongside Nate Hastings and Stephanie Simmons, he locates a renowned surgeon willing to take on the risky procedure, offering Nikki what may be her only chance to save her eyesight. Although Nikki may initially resent the fact that Victor inserted himself into her deeply personal health battle, her fear and uncertainty could quickly overshadow any lingering anger. Facing the terrifying possibility of permanent blindness has a way of changing priorities, and Victor's unwavering determination to protect her may remind Nikki of the man who has always fought hardest when her life was on the line. Once the surgery is behind them, Victor is unlikely to allow Nikki to return to the Genoa City Athletic Club. Instead, he will almost certainly insist that she return home to the Newman Ranch, where he can personally care for her during her recovery. Knowing Victor, accepting no has never been part of his vocabulary, and this may become the emotional turning point that finally begins repairing one of Genoa City's most legendary romances. Meanwhile, another dangerous chapter unfolds as Jack Abbott refuses to give up his search for Diane Jenkins Abbott. Jack believes Diane is being held inside Dr. Markham's home, but Patty Williams has already anticipated his every move. After warning Markham that Jack may come looking for Diane, Patty has likely prepared for any rescue attempt that might threaten her carefully constructed scheme. Jack and Kyle Abbott decide to take a tremendous risk by trying to reach Diane themselves, believing they cannot afford to wait any longer while she remains trapped. Their first attempt may ultimately fail, with Patty and her mysterious accomplice staying one step ahead. But even an unsuccessful rescue could provide investigators with enough evidence to secure a search warrant. That breakthrough may become the beginning of the end for Patty's elaborate deception. Diane seems destined to be rescued eventually, but Patty is not the type of woman who quietly accepts defeat. Her obsession with Jack has consumed her for far too long, making it almost impossible to imagine her surrendering without one final, reckless act. Before justice can finally catch up to her, Patty may launch one last desperate scheme that threatens everyone around her. And once her plans collapse, she could disappear from Genoa City altogether, fleeing before police have the opportunity to arrest her or return her to a psychiatric hospital. Elsewhere, another heartbreaking struggle may unfold as Nick Newman continues fighting the addiction he has worked so hard to overcome. Recently, Nick admitted to Sharon Newman and Noah Newman that his recovery has become increasingly difficult. Seeing a longtime sober member arrive at a meeting under the influence, followed by unexpectedly running into his former dealer at Crimson Lights, shook him far more than he wanted to admit. Those encounters served as painful reminders that addiction never truly disappears, no matter how many years of sobriety someone has achieved. Now, with Nikki's life hanging in the balance and emergency surgery becoming unavoidable, the overwhelming emotional pressure may become too much for Nick to carry alone. The weight of watching his mother's health deteriorate could trigger the very relapse he has feared for so long. Head writer Josh Griffith has already hinted that Nick's journey would become increasingly difficult, suggesting that his recovery story still has darker chapters ahead. If Nick falls back into old habits during July sweeps, he will likely respond the way many addicts do, through denial, secrecy, and carefully constructed lies designed to protect his addiction rather than himself. Eventually, however, the truth may become impossible to hide, and Victor Newman may decide that enough is enough. Rather than allowing Nick to continue destroying himself, Victor could insist on inpatient rehabilitation, believing that a complete detox program is the only path capable of saving his son's future. At the same time, one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Diane's captivity could finally begin unraveling, as questions surrounding Dr. Lawrence Markham become impossible to ignore. On paper, Markham appears to possess legitimate medical credentials, and Jack has already verified that everything seems authentic. Yet his disturbing behavior simply does not fit that of a respected psychiatrist. No ethical doctor would accept enormous sums of money to manipulate a vulnerable patient into believing she suffered a psychological breakdown before imprisoning her indefinitely. That horrifying level of deception suggests something far darker beneath the surface. One possibility is that the man everyone believes is Dr. Markham is actually an imposter who has stolen someone else's identity. The real Dr. Markham may be imprisoned somewhere inside his own home, hidden away in a basement, tied up against his will, or perhaps even murdered. Patty's unstable mind certainly makes such horrifying possibilities believable. Another equally chilling theory suggests that this mysterious man could actually be a former psychiatric patient who once received treatment from the genuine Dr. Markham. Having observed the doctor's methods firsthand, he would know enough to convincingly impersonate him while helping Patty carry out her twisted conspiracy. Whatever the truth ultimately becomes, there is clearly something deeply suspicious about the man calling himself Dr. Markham. And his partnership with Patty feels less like a doctor assisting a patient and far more like two dangerous criminals working together toward a common goal. Business power plays also promise major fireworks as Kane Ashby continues positioning himself for an even larger role at Chancellor. Before circumstances spiraled out of control, Kane had already offered Billy Abbott an opportunity to reclaim part of the corporate empire he has long desired. Kane understands better than almost anyone how deeply Billy still wants Chancellor, and he may genuinely believe Billy deserves another opportunity. Their complicated family connection could make the partnership even more appealing, especially with Jill Abbott returning to town, now portrayed by Lauren Koslow. Jill may find the idea of Kane and Billy working together surprisingly appealing, believing it could strengthen both the company and their family bond. Although Lily Winters has every reason to question Billy's reliability, Kane's influence as CEO may eventually persuade her to take a chance. Rather than handing Billy complete control, Kane could recommend hiring him as Chief Operating Officer or another executive position that allows him to prove himself gradually. Such a decision would almost certainly send Victor Newman into a fury. Victor is already unlikely to appreciate Lily placing Kane in charge of Chancellor, and adding Billy to the executive team could push him beyond his limits. After everything Victor and Nikki have done to Lily in the past, she may secretly enjoy watching the Newmans react to decisions they can no longer control. Another promising development could finally bring Nate Hastings back toward the career that once defined his life. Although Nate agreed to assist Victor in securing the best medical care possible for Nikki, he has carefully limited his role to consulting rather than returning to active medicine. Even so, Stephanie Simmons clearly recognizes that Nate's passion for healing patients has never disappeared. Audra Charles has noticed it as well, seeing glimpses of the dedicated physician who still exists beneath the businessman he has become. Stephanie's special project may ultimately become the opportunity that draws Nate back into the medical world. While surgery itself may no longer be possible, there are countless other ways Nate could use his expertise. Serving as a surgical consultant or coordinating patients with the nation's top specialists would allow him to save lives without performing operations himself. Considering that Lily and Devon Hamilton no longer appear to rely heavily on Nate's involvement at Winters, this career shift feels increasingly realistic. It would also represent a deeply satisfying personal victory, allowing Nate to reconnect with the purpose he sacrificed years ago. If that future unfolds, Audra would likely become one of his strongest supporters, and their growing bond could continue moving toward the reconciliation many viewers are still hoping to see. Finally, perhaps the most romantic prediction of all belongs to Lily Winters and Kane Ashby, whose relationship seems to grow stronger with every passing day. Ever since Kane selflessly donated bone marrow to save Malcolm Winters' life, Lily has looked at him through entirely different eyes. The man who once disappointed her has steadily proven that he has changed, not through promises, but through actions that demonstrate courage, loyalty, and genuine love. Their recent kisses have only intensified the undeniable chemistry building between them, making it increasingly clear that Lily's heart is opening once again. Rather than waiting for Kane to take the lead, it may be Lily who finally embraces her feelings and initiates the next step in their relationship. During July sweeps, that emotional breakthrough could blossom into genuine intimacy, symbolizing not only physical closeness, but also the complete rebuilding of trust that once seemed impossible. Kane would almost certainly never pressure Lily into making such a decision, choosing instead to patiently wait until she was completely ready. That patience may ultimately be rewarded in the most meaningful way possible, as Lily chooses him freely and wholeheartedly. Together, they may discover that their renewed romance extends beyond the boardroom at Chancellor, where Lily serves as his corporate leader, into a deeply personal partnership built on mutual respect, unwavering devotion, and a love that has survived countless storms. If these predictions become reality, July sweeps may deliver not only shocking betrayals and dangerous secrets, but also heartfelt reunions and long-awaited second chances that remind viewers why hope can sometimes emerge from even the darkest chapters. The deeper July sweeps pushes into its chaos, the more every storyline begins tightening like a noose around the people at the center of it all. In Genoa City, nothing ever stays buried for long, and the emotional fallout from these coming events could leave scars that last far beyond the summer. For Victor Newman, Nikki's surgery may become far more than a fight to save her eyesight. It may become a brutal reminder of just how close he came to losing the woman who has stood beside him through decades of war, heartbreak, and triumph. Once Nikki is safely out of the operating room, Victor's protective instincts are likely to become stronger than ever, and that could create its own emotional storm. He will not want her vulnerable, alone, or away from him anymore. For Victor, bringing Nikki home is not just about recovery. It is about reclaiming what they both nearly lost. And for Nikki, waking up after such a terrifying procedure could shift something inside her too. Fear has a way of making people confront truths they've spent months trying to ignore. The distance between her and Victor, the anger, the resentment, all of it may suddenly feel smaller compared to the reality that life can change in a single moment. If Victor is the one who stood there, moved mountains, and found the surgeon that saved her vision, that gratitude could slowly melt the walls she has built around herself. But Victor's surprising discovery about Nikki's diagnosis may add another dangerous layer to this already fragile situation. If there is something hidden about her condition, something even Nikki herself does not fully know, then the road ahead may be far more complicated than anyone realizes. And Victor, as always, will stop at nothing to uncover every last truth. At the same time, Jack Abbott's desperation to save Diane may push him into increasingly reckless territory. Every hour that passes with Diane trapped under Patty's twisted psychological control raises the stakes. Jack's instincts are screaming that time is running out, and Kyle's willingness to risk everything alongside his father only adds to the emotional weight of the mission. But Patty is not predictable. That has always made her one of Genoa City's most dangerous loose cannons. Once Jack's first rescue attempt fails, Patty may feel cornered, and cornered people often become their most dangerous selves. Her obsession with Jack has always blurred the line between love and madness, And if she believes she's about to lose everything, her final move could be catastrophic. That final stunt may not just involve Jack, it could place Diane directly in harm's way. Imagine Patty spiraling, convinced that if she cannot have Jack's love, no one can. The emotional horror of that possibility hangs heavily over everything. And if the fake Dr. Markham is truly working alongside her, then the danger multiplies. Because exposing Patty may be one thing, but exposing a man who may not even be who he claims to be could unravel an even bigger criminal conspiracy. If the real Dr. Markham is found imprisoned, injured, or worse, the entire story would become one of the most disturbing scandals Genoa City has seen in years. And Diane, once finally freed, may face a long emotional recovery after being manipulated so deeply into questioning her own reality. Elsewhere, Nick Newman's downward spiral could become one of the most heartbreaking arcs of the summer. Addiction stories hit hardest because they are never just about one bad decision. They are about pain, fear, loneliness, and the unbearable pressure of carrying emotions no one else can fully understand. Nick has been trying to stay strong, but every sign around him points toward relapse. The meetings, the old dealer, the fear in his eyes when he admitted to Sharon and Noah that he was struggling. Those moments were not random. They were warnings. And Nicky's medical crisis may be the final blow to his fragile control. If Nick falls, it won't happen dramatically at first. It may happen quietly, secretly, with one lie, one bad choice, one moment of weakness. That is what makes it so tragic, because by the time Sharon or Noah notices something is wrong, Nick may already be too deep to pull himself out alone. Victor, especially, would likely react with fury mixed with heartbreak. He has seen addiction destroy lives before, and watching his son slip into that darkness would be unbearable. But Victor's way of helping has never been gentle. If he forces Nick into rehab, that could create a bitter emotional war between father and son, especially if Nick refuses to admit how far he has fallen. And sometimes, the hardest part of recovery is not getting clean. It is facing the people you hurt while you were lost. Meanwhile, over at Chancellor, Lily's bold leadership decisions may ignite a full-scale corporate war. Bringing Kane in as CEO was already a massive gamble. Allowing Billy into that world, too, would make it even more volatile. Victor will almost certainly see it as a direct challenge, and Victor Newman does not tolerate challenges lightly. For Lily, though, there may be satisfaction in that. She has every reason to feel betrayed by the Newman family's past actions, and if this new structure rattles Victor's empire, that may be exactly the point. Kane and Billy working side by side could be powerful, but it could also be dangerous. Both men are ambitious, emotional, and capable of making reckless moves when pride gets involved. Still, there is something undeniably compelling about the idea of Kane and Billy rebuilding trust together. They understand each other in ways few others do, and that bond could either strengthen Chancellor or tear it apart from the inside. Jill Abbott's return may serve as the emotional glue holding that fragile alliance together, especially if she sees the value in giving both men another chance. But in Genoa City, business and personal feelings are never separate for long. And with Lily sitting at the center of it all, her feelings for Kane could complicate everything even further. Because behind the boardroom battles and family drama, the fire between Lily and Kane keeps growing hotter. Every look, every touch, every kiss they have shared has carried years of history beneath it. Kane saving Malcolm's life was not just an act of heroism. It was proof of who he is at his core. For Lily, that matters more than anything. Trust is not easy to rebuild, especially after everything they have been through. But Kane has been patient. He has shown up. He has proven himself. And now Lily may be ready to stop resisting what her heart has been trying to tell her for weeks. When that moment finally happens, it could be one of the most emotionally charged scenes of the entire sweeps period. Not just because of the passion, but because of what it represents. Forgiveness, healing, hope. Lily choosing Kane is not simply about desire. It is about allowing herself to believe in love again after pain. And Kane, who has spent so long fighting to earn her trust back, would likely see that moment as everything he has been waiting for. But love in Genoa City is never simple. Even if they find their way back to each other, outside forces, Victor, Billy, Chancellor, and all the chaos around them could threaten to tear them apart again before they ever truly get their second chance. And through it all, Nate Hastings may quietly begin stepping back toward the life he was always meant to live. Sometimes destiny waits patiently, even when people try to outrun it. Medicine has always been Nate's calling, and every moment he spends helping Nikki reminds him of that truth. If he returns to the hospital, even in a non-surgical role, it could restore a piece of himself he has been missing for far too long. That kind of purpose changes a person. It grounds them. It heals them. And if Audra stands beside him through that transformation, their own story may find new life too. By the end of July sweeps, the dust will settle, but only after explosions of truth, heartbreak, and passion shake Genoa City to its core. Nikki may come home. Patty may run. Diane may be saved. Nick may fall. Kane and Lily may reunite. Nate may find himself again. But every victory will come with a price. Because in The Young and the Restless, no happy ending ever comes without sacrifice. And no secret stays hidden forever. The only question now is who will survive the truth when it all finally comes crashing down.